Hey guys, let's get more news about Miami Heat, but first, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and leave a like. Analyst declares Cavaliers are best team in the Eastern Conference. After sweeping the Miami Heat in the opening round of the playoffs, the Cleveland Cavaliers are preparing to face the Indiana Pacers in the Eastern Conference semifinals. Kenny Atkinson's team has been among the most dominant forces in the NBA this season. As such, the Cavaliers will enter their series against Indiana as the heavy favorites to progress. During a recent episode of Fox Sports' First Things First, Chris Broussard declared that the Cavaliers are heading to the NBA Finals. He dubbed Atkinson's team as the best in the East, even above the Boston Celtics. Cleveland proved that it is the best team in the Eastern Conference, Broussard said. That's right, I said it, the Cavaliers are going to the finals. Take that, Boston. You don't do this, sweep, to the Miami Heat, to beat them by an average of 30 points per game. You can't stop Donovan Mitchell from getting to the hole. That's no surprise, they got depth in the backcourt, they defend, they can protect the rim. I think they are the best team in the East. The Cavaliers are an inexperienced roster when it comes to the postseason. If they manage to beat the Pacers, who made it to the Eastern Conference Finals last season, Cleveland will then face the Celtics. Beating Boston, over a 7-game series, will not be an easy task. Joe Mazzulla's squad is one of the most experienced and playoff-tested teams in the entire NBA. Donovan Mitchell recently broke down the approach the Cavaliers need to adopt if they're going to be successful when facing the Pacers. Indiana's guys have been farther in the playoffs and whatnot, Mitchell told The Athletic's Joe Vardon. It's the same mentality we had against Miami. Take care of home court. Take care of business on the road. Rebound. Extra possessions. Get back in transition. You know, stick to what you do and do it better for 48 minutes. Cleveland's biggest test will be slowing down Indiana's high-tempo offense. If Atkinson can position his team to control the tempo, the Pacers could struggle, especially in a more physical half-court setting. However, many teams have tried to slow Indiana down and failed. As such, the Cavaliers have a big test on their hands. Beating the Pacers will undoubtedly provide the Cavaliers with the momentum they need heading into the Eastern Conference Finals. That's why Mitchell wants his team to keep chipping away, regardless of whether things get difficult during their second-round series. I'm not gonna say we've sat here and figured it out, Mitchell told Vardon. We gotta continue to do it against Indiana, and then the next round and the next round. I think winning the way we did in Game 2, a close game, set the table for Games 3 and 4, against Miami. It's something I think we can carry over into this series. Cleveland will begin their second-round matchup on Sunday, May 4th. They will have home court advantage. Nevertheless, they would be wise not to take the Pacers lightly. After all, at this stage of the season, every team has earned its place. There are no easy wins. Terry Rozier trade should serve as important lesson to Heat amid rebuild. There's no two ways about it, the Miami Heat's acquisition of Terry Rozier has been a bust. But they can't make the same mistake twice just to get out of the Rozier business. The Heat traded Kyle Lowry's expiring contract and a first-round pick to the Charlotte Hornets for Rozier last January. Since then, Rozier had his first season derailed by a neck injury, was removed from the starting lineup and posted some of the worst numbers of his career. Rozier has one more year left on his contract. It's guaranteed for $24.9 million of the $26.6 million total value, so waiving him outright doesn't make sense. Some have suggested that the Heat should do whatever they can to rid themselves of Rozier's contract, including pairing him with an asset sweetener to convince a team to take his remaining salary. That would be a mistake. The Heat can't give away assets to free themselves of a contract that will be off the books next June. They only have 3 tradable first-round picks. It would take at least one to convince any team to take on Rozier's contract. Those picks are earmarked for use in a star trade. The Heat felt similar pressure in Lowry's final season. His decline had become a problem and the Heat desperately needed an upgrade at that position. So they shipped Lowry's expiring salary and a 2027 first-round pick to Charlotte for Rozier, who was averaging 23 points per game for the Hornets prior to the trade. It was viewed as a minor upgrade even then, but a necessary one as the Heat struggled in the season following their 2023 finals run. But that proved to be a mistake. Not only because Rozier failed to help the roster, but also because the Heat ended up losing a first-round pick and getting saddled with another big contract in the process. Going into this offseason, the Heat have plenty of high-end role players and all-stars. What they don't have is the number one scoring option to make it all come together. Maybe the Heat can use Rozier's expiring salary to help facilitate a trade for a star. If not, that's okay. The Heat would be better off going into next season with Rozier still on the roster than using valuable assets to get rid of a contract that will come off the books this time next year. Heat star ruled out as potential trade target for Lakers. After crashing out of the playoffs via a 4-0 sweep, the Miami Heat have some tough decisions to make. Pat Riley must decide whether to retool the roster or begin a rebuild. As things stand, it's unlikely that Miami is taking any player out of trade discussions. Therefore, Bam Adebayo could potentially be available for the right price. During a recent episode of the Buha's Block podcast with the Athletic's Jovan Buha, the Los Angeles Lakers insider ruled out Adebayo as a potential trade target. Buha believes that Adebayo would be tough to pry from the Heat. Buha also noted how the big man's inability to be a lob threat could make him a suboptimal fit next to Luka Doncic. I think he'd be good next to Luka because they're both all-star, all-NBA guys, and they're both smart and they can make it work, Buha said. I think Bam is not enough of a lob threat for what the Lakers would want. Defensively, he'd be great because he's a great defender, but I don't know if they could get him. From a trade perspective, I don't really see LA having enough to offer Miami. Adebayo is one of the leaders in the Heat's locker room. It would likely take a sizable offer for Miami to part with him. However, Miami's lack of tradable assets could force them into some uncomfortable negotiations. During the same podcast episode, Buha shared his idea for what an Adebayo trade between the Heat and Lakers could look like. The proposal looks like this: Lakers get Bam Adebayo, Heat get Austin Reaves, Dalton Connect, a 2030 pick swap and a 2031 unprotected first-round pick. I don't think Miami is doing that, Buha said after floating the trade package. If the Heat did opt to make Adebayo available via trade, they would likely get far better packages from other teams. Miami has no reason to sit down and negotiate with the Lakers outside of sending Adebayo to the Western Conference. Nevertheless, being swept in the first round of the playoffs has likely caused a new sense of urgency in the front office. So, there is always a slim chance Adebayo could be moved for a package built around Reaves and Neck. According to ESPN's Bobby Marks, who was speaking on an April 30th episode of ESPN's NBA Today, Miami should seriously consider entering a rebuilding phase. It's very hard threading the needle, Marks said. They've been a play-in team the last couple of years. Would they ever consider taking a step back, potentially taking the Oklahoma City approach? Maybe you get a core player back and draft picks, and going in that direction, they are going to be where they are a year from now, if there are no changes here. It may have to be taking a step back instead of going star chasing. While rebuilding is far from glamorous, it is often a necessary part of a team's life cycle. It's clear that Miami needs to restock on assets and begin developing young and sustainable talent. And while that would mean being among the worst teams in the NBA for a few years, the rewards could be significant. Miami has avoided a rebuild for long enough. Now could be the perfect time to tear things down and start building things back from scratch. And you, fan? What do you think about Austin Reaves' situation? Write to us in the comments.